Okay, guys, I'm gonna do a basically kind of like a synopsis on Pyke himself as a champion. It's been a couple days, and I wanted to kind of give a rundown of what I feel about him, how underwhelming he is as a support main, slash like mid main now, trying to be, but as a support main for basically 5 seasons. I figured it'd be a good way to kind of give my analysis on this and just give my first instincts on him. Basically, he's been out for maybe like 4 to 5 days, so maybe it's not the best time to do it, but his win rates are coming up, and I always like talking about champions, so I might as well talk about him. So, as you can see, he's a very popular champion right now. 14%, that's pretty good. And his win rate, though, is below 40 now. Yesterday it was like 41. I think it's going to dip for a while. It might get below to like 35. His ban rate is also high, probably because people do not want him playing on their team. So, basically, he's getting very low win rates, and his ban rates are actually pretty high too. And look at this average KDA, very, very nice. But as you can see, he's not doing too well. So what are the problems with Pyke, and why is that happening as a champion? So Pyke is shipped on release, even in the video, the champion spotlight itself, as an assassin support. They shipped him as that. They told you to build some assassin items, yada yada yada, do that. So in order to kind of figure out what's wrong with Pyke, we have to kind of go maybe over his abilities real quick, as well as potentially explaining and comparing him to other supports slash assassins, because he fits in both classes. And I can also show you some Pyke gameplay that I had the other day. I had a couple, I think I've had 10 games of Pyke already in the last couple days, and they've varied in results. I think I've only won like 2 of them. But I'll try to go over his abilities real quick and what's sort of wrong with them, and also maybe how I can see him getting buffed in the future, yada yada yada, all of that jazz. So his Q is his main damage source, and as an ability, I don't even think they show you on here, but basically, it's his main damage source, and it's his like big CC that's shipped. It's a single target. You can like fling. You can also kind of like pull people from a distance. It doesn't pull them as far as I would say blitz hook, but it's a little further than thresh hook, but it doesn't CC him as long. It's kind of like just like a little like I said, it's basically like a singed fling, but it can be used from range. When you shorten it, it is an AOE stab that does a slow, and it does massive damage. Massive is varying results. We'll go over how much damage all of these do. His W is basically his movement in stealth. It actually gives you movement speed based off your AD as well. Maybe I should be doing this in the Pyke champion right here. And then his Phantom Undertow is an ability that's also a movement. You can go over walls and stuff, and you can stun people. It's AoE stun, so you can do that. And it does damage when you hit them. It does not do damage any other time. And the stun duration goes up by 0.1, which is, it's okay. But it's AoE, so that's good, and it does actually pretty good damage for a stun, for an AoE stun. And you're going to max this second, and then this first. And then lastly, you have an execute ult that gives your allies assist gold if you don't kill, or you kill them, and your allies hit them beforehand. So that's really nice, and it does it like in an X formation, which is pretty good. Unfortunately, I didn't expect the champion spotlight or the champion abilities to showcase here not to be able to do what they need to do. And lastly, I need to talk about his passive. His passive is pretty, you'd be surprised. You just basically gain massive amounts of HP. You can't build HP and get HP. You get it per level based off your attack damage and such. And you heal a lot of HP when you're out of combat and not seen, which is pretty good as well. But I don't really know how much it fits with his champion playstyle. I know the gaining HP is really nice, but in terms of getting HP and giving you AD is kind of weird. I don't know how much it really fits him. I think you could have probably done something else with it, but I can suggest other things once we get to that point. But I kind of want to just give a brief rundown of his abilities. I know it's not the most clear thing, but the big thing I need to compare about his abilities once we get to him is comparing him to other assassins first. So let's compare him to other assassins, then we'll compare him to other supports. So what differentiates Pyke from other assassins in our collection, whatnot? For instance, you can compare him to like Talon, Zed, Katarina, Kayn, Akali, such like champions like that, right? These assassins, these guys that go mid, that ruin your day and make you want to, hang yourself if they keep snowballing really hard. So Pyke has to be compared to these guys. He's shipped. He builds the same items. Um, he shipped it upon release as a guy who should be filling a similar role to these guys. Maybe not, the best or at what he needs to do, but he should theoretically be comparable. So what do these champions have that Pyke might not have, etc., etc.? Talon has 2 movement. They both have movement abilities. Okay, we're not going to go by champion. We're going to do it like this instead. What makes an assassin, real quick? Kind of like just general feedback on assassins. Usually they don't have the best of wave clear. You can shove them in. They have good roaming. They have good movement abilities that help them get around the map and allow them to roam. They are good at like entering fights from odd angles, etc., etc. They have high burst, and like I said, usually their wave clear is not great, and they're usually melee. Most assassins are melee. So they have to get up and close and such and be upon you. That's why they need the movement abilities in the first place. High burst, like I said, and they build lethality, magic pen, yada yada yada. So that usually kind of like defines an assassin right there. So can we compare that with Pyke's? And I want to kind of explain why Pyke's abilities in comparison to the other assassins are kind of weird. Assassins can have CC. Usually it's kind of mixed. They usually have like slows or something like that. But for the most part, no, they really don't have much CC besides like a couple exceptions. Usually some of the CC helps them set up kills and stuff, but for the most part, they actually just have slows. So Pyke having CC is actually pretty good. I'm not ragging on Pyke's CC in that case. But Pyke will always be, think about it this way, why are assassins successful? They are in a solo lane, and they get solo XP. So they usually have high ability ratios because they should be a higher level and their ability should be higher maxed. So your Q on Talon will always be a higher like max Q than say a Brand support or a Pyke support. Your Q will always be a higher level. So no matter what, or your W, you will always be a higher level than a support unless something is going wrong horrifically. So your ability is already going to do more damage based off that alone. That's why solo laners actually just go solo. Mages are usually better mid because they scale off ability level a lot more than an ADC typically. So that's pretty important to remember because Pyke is always going to be a lower level. Therefore, his abilities are always going to not be as high in their respective damage charts right here. You're not getting these damage numbers as quickly as a Talon or a Zed, LeBlanc, a Kali, all that jazz. So as an assassin already, you're already behind in that regard. You're already behind in items because you're not getting CS. Again, assassins overwhelm you with items. They overwhelm you with roams and burst and ability levels. So already you see a trend that Pyke is just behind already from the get-go as an assassin because he has to share XP with an ADC and he has to share ability levels, or he has to share gold using only Targons because that is the most viable route you can go. You can look here as what they're kind of going assassin-wise. They're not finishing many items. They're trying lethality and such. So that's usually the route you go. You have to pretty much go Ignite. And people are split on Aftershock and Electrocute because when you get in there, you have good... basically, when you get in there, you can Aftershock and get E-procs from your stun or your Q. And Electrocute, obviously, offers high burst. All of that jazz. So they're pretty split on like what to build on them. Usually you go Resolve or Domination either way. But basically, like I said, so if you're already comparing them to assassins, he's already behind. And the share gold thing is nice, don't get me wrong. But it doesn't cover all of his weaknesses. If he's not getting kills, he's not getting as many kills as assassins are already. And he has to be played like very snowball-y, just like most assassins are. So that's not great already. So when you're comparing him to assassins, you can already kind of see a trend that he is just behind the curve. I will also compare, he has more CC and engage, but at the same time, if you use his W to engage, I'll again back these up with more gameplay videos and stuff. So I'll try to showcase what's going on right here. If you use his W to engage, you run the risk of you don't have another way out. And if you're trying to CC them with your E, you don't have another way out. So a lot of the times assassins have other ways, options of getting out, but Pyke unfortunately usually has very, I want to say it's very telegraphed. He's going to W in and he has to E on top of you, /Q. But once he does that, he is stuck in the fight, and he's probably going to burst unless it's like killed or be killed at that point. Meanwhile, Talon can ult and like run away after he already E's and Q's on top of you. Kali has several jumps on her ultimate. Zed can ult back. Katarina has Shumpo on reset. Ahri has 3 different ways to ult, and I don't think that Q gives her movement speed. But you see what I'm getting, that most of these assassins have kind of a minor way to get in and out. Echo has an ult that helps him get out. And he also has a shield technically too. But he has survivability. So like once Pyke's in, he's in. So I kind of wanted to go over like you can kind of see here. I use my E, miss it, and like once I'm in this fight. You could argue I should be probably stabbing Twitch right here. But I don't think we would have gotten a kill, and I didn't have my ult up there anyway. But if you use your abilities to try to get in the fight and say it doesn't go right, or they have a dash, which since it's easy to telegraph, then it just doesn't go well in that regard. I kind of wanted to go over. There's one that I know goes like horribly wrong for us, and I wanted to go over that one. I think it's 351. But I just wanted to compare them to other assassins here. Maybe it's 353. So you have to also then, next in line is comparing them to other supports. So obviously the go-to is saying like the shield supports, you can just pick Nami. We'll do the video gameplay after, and I can kind of explain what's going on in each one. I have like 4 different fights that I want to kind of go over. So you can go like, you know, the heal supports, classic like Lulu, Nami, Soraka, Sona, whatever. You would think that would be his best matchup, being able to assassinate those guys as well. But the one thing they have over you at level 1-2 is range. Now, your 2 is actually surprisingly strong, and you don't, if you go resolve, you're actually tanky, so it's hard for them to actually make it down on you. But they can outpoke you, and they'll probably have better shove-in on you most of the time. You do have Targans, but for the most part, if you're going against like Brand Zyra, where it gets more aggro, they will have 100% shove on you. They will push you in, and you can't help your ADC shove out as fast. That is really bad, because if Pyke's shoved in, he has not many opportunities to get a hook, and if he does go in past minion wave, it's going to take a lot of minion damage, which is pretty tragic itself. So Janna and Sona and Soraka should be your best matchups, but for the most part, I see Pyke actually running to more like problems that you would hopefully didn't happen. Morgana's like the same way. Like you try to do anything with your Q and she'll black shield it. So those matchups are pretty rough. Then you get into people who just absolutely booty blast you. I'm talking Alistair Braum and like Thresh. These guys have, or Leona or something like that, or Tom Kench. Yeah, even though most of my gameplay is actually against Tom Kench. Fun fact. But those guys, if you go in, you will get stunned, and they also have multiple ways to not only stun you, but stun your teammate as well. So jumping into them, and they even showed you this in this champion spotlight, jumping into a Braum or something like that is probably ill-advised. So I would not advise jumping in there. But he has good engage for support, surprisingly. You could argue that Thresh Hook or Blitz Hook is debatably better. It's hard to explain. And they offer shorter cooldowns as well. So Pyke's cooldowns in comparison to a lot of these guys are pretty long. You can see it right here, that this is a 16-second cooldown and it only goes down to 8. Obviously with 40% CDR you'll get down lower, but I mean if you're getting to like not level 9-10, the game should be already kind of like decided by then. But 16-14 is pretty brutal without CDR. 15 seconds without being able to lower this one. 120 seconds on this. 12 seconds. So this guy is the master of fucking cooldowns right here. So early trades in lane are, you missed your hook or something like that, or you missed your E, good fucking luck doing anything. So that's why your all-in has to be successful, and if it's not, you're going to be in a world of pain. They'll just poke you down. So he doesn't offer, since he's building lethality items and such, he doesn't offer shields. He doesn't offer like an Aegis or Redemption or anything like that. Other Glacial Augment. Glacial Augment, that's not the right one. But he doesn't offer very defensive shields and stuff. So his way of supporting you is by killing people. So already we run into a problem right there. If he's not doing so, then he's doing a bad job. He can also CC, so I guess I'm kind of being unfair to him, but for the most part, like, you could argue Brand or Fiddlesticks or something like that, or Zyra, who are also ways of CCing but like killing people. They have AoE abilities, and they have non-committal spells that can fling from a distance, and they have range. Range is huge in this game. That's why ADCs are so strong late game, is because not only because they are, you know, like one-shotting you, just using attack damages and don't have to use abilities. They're doing damage per second, but they have range, and that's very big. So you don't have to rely on movement abilities to get up and close. So let's go over some specific team fights, and I can kind of walk you through like what's going on. Each one, there's specific moments I already have picked out in this VOD that I think there's good moments and bad moments. Most of them are from one specific game, so that'll help. It's against a Tahm Kench lane and a Twitch lane. And I'm playing with Jhin. Jhin is the guy actually I've had the most success with. This is really early game laning right here. So like this is level 3 and stuff. So I have an opportunity to kind of showcase how early laning kind of looks on him with Targons. You are obviously, obviously getting shoved in here. Because maybe we shouldn't be getting shoved in here either way, but I don't know. But the play, eventually I'm like, okay, we got to make a play and go in. He misses his tongue lash, so I'm like, okay, I got to go for a hook here. And what ends up happening is they kind of walk up here, and I can get a good stun on Tahm Kench while he's eating Twitch. And you can see I'm not getting another hook to stab even. Just use a base Q for a stab. But I'm able to get the Tahm Kench on the back end right here. And that's pretty huge. And that fight, like, imagine a shorter cooldown Q where I could actually stab him and use it to slow him right here. Because I got a good stun off. But you can use your W to kind of like walk in and obviously get a nice little... it helps you hit your... I'm going to miss this hook too. It helps you get your E and Q off much easier if you get in close with your W and like fling them and such. So that's one fight that kind of goes well. I'm going to show you a fight that goes, I think, poorly. And I think I already kind of like tried to go over this earlier. But the play that happens at 353. So right here, I'm going to use my W to get in here. And I use my E and I miss. Or maybe this is the one that goes decently well. But we're getting help. So I get this Q off here, etc. Twitch is like opening up on us. That's not great. But as you can see, for the most part, I want to kind of go over. Sorry, I want to kind of go over that I wasn't really doing shit after I already burnt my Q. I guess it's similar to Alistair, but for a damage guy, that's pretty rough. You're waiting on CDs and stuff. But I'm just kind of like walking around doing absolutely fucking nothing, which is pretty brutal. And then I get a nice root here and into a fling, but I miss my ult. Surprisingly, his ult's actually decently tough to hit, but that shouldn't be a slight against him at all. But as you can see, even if I miss my movement ability, I guess once we're getting more towards the game, we can actually get things done. Then I fling this guy into a nice little kind of stun right here, and we end up picking up this kill too. So as you can see, this game should be going well for us, right? I'm 3-2-3. I'm snowballing decently well. Our team seems to be doing well. The last couple plays have been us kind of like slamming down the Twitch, but it all kind of falls apart once you get to mid game and you have to start making roams. It's hard to roam on Fizz, for example, right here. Fizz is their mid laner, and it's hard to kill Volibear. So their two solo lanes already are kind of like, okay, that's fucking really not great for Pyke. If Pyke jumps in on Fizz and he's decently fed, or just not even like behind, he'll kill you. He'll have more items. I already kind of went over this. More items, and on top of that, he has more mobility, and he's higher level. No matter what, I'm already in the deficit against Fizz, even if I'm snowballed. So already, this game is, you think it would go well based off me being Pyke and having, kills and such, but I already will spoil it for you. We lose this game. This game is a loss. I want to go over one last, is it 347 or something like that? No, 351. Did I go to 351? There's one that goes really badly for us, and I want to explain why it goes so poorly for us. I thought it was 351. Sorry. Yeah, right here. Okay, this is it. This is it. Ignore what's going on top lane. Yeah, we got some nice red shiny marks for Pyke's execute. Okay, so here's where a fight goes wrong, and I'm 101 right here. And you could argue I miss all my abilities, but I want to showcase something that's one of the major flaws I see with Pyke. It's his animations are kind of fucking funky. So I'm going to go in, and I'm going to E. It stuns Tom Kench, but I'm on top of Twitch. Now, I'm going to use my Q right here to kind of fling him back a little bit. You could argue since I didn't stun Twitch, that's really bad. But like my CDs, 11, 10, 13, I have my ult up. It's about to get fucking brutal. Because after I fling this guy, we have no way of fucking dealing with this dude. So I auto him, yada, yada, yada. I'm getting eaten. That's fine. What ends up happening is this animation right here. This animation for your ult, I should be fucking executing Twitch already. But what ends up happening is Pyke does something like that Darius does and leaps up into the fucking air for a decent long length of time, and he kills me because I'm targetable when he's fucking doing that, and I'm dead. And I don't kill him. This guy ends up having heal. The meme of Jason not getting healed by his ADCs is pretty shitty, and we would have been able to kill both of them. But that's beside the point. The point is his ult animation is so fucking long, and you can see the distraught on my fucking face, that I did not expect to die, and I'm targetable. I'm not tanky like Darius. Having animations that hold you in place and make you targetable, most of these assassins either are invis when they're doing their burst, or like can do their burst and not have lengthy animations that are really distraught. How bad would it feel if you were a Kali and you had to like raise your hands up before you fucking ulted every time? It wouldn't feel great, and it would be more telegraphed and such. Zed is untargetable when he ults. Fizz can untarget himself when he's Eing, and his fish animation comes out clean when he's ulting. The point I'm trying to make is this being very, very limiting to Pyke's gameplay in a nutshell right there. This is probably one of the biggest issues I have with Pyke if you're doing this several times during a fight. You're taking AoE damage. So this is just Twitch shooting me. Imagine if they had like an AP mid or like a Ziggs or something like that, or Xerath blowing me up as I'm fucking doing this and just taking, you know, Sunfire Cape damage, Malphite AoE slam like ground damage, or in ults and stuff. Like, I'm not going to be able to fucking get all of these off. This animation is actually detrimental to what Pyke needs to do. So eventually I die. We would have both been out. I'm still like distraught about this. But it showcases a major problem with Pyke that I really wanted to go over, and I'll kind of go over it when I go over the positives and negatives. There's one more fight I want to showcase. This is from a different game. So we end up losing this game, actually, because we can't snowball our lead. You can see fights like this. Like, I can fling him in and yada, yada, yada. We get, like, picks like this, but one thing you'll know for certain is Pyke will have a lot of deaths because he has to go in and try to burst people. So I just wanted to kind of showcase some good fights and stuff that can show off Pyke's abilities for a little bit. There's one game where this fight kind of turns the game around, so I kind of wanted to do this one as the last kind of like thing, and then I'll talk about more. I'll talk about positives and negatives of Pyke with the gameplay footage, I guess, in the background a little more. So this fight coming up changes the game, and as you can see, 6-3 and 3 again. Fed, I have a Ghost Blade, and for 6-3 and 3, that doesn't seem like that much. I mean, look at the CS. I only have 35 CS, so it doesn't feel great to have just a Ghost Blade. And if your ratios aren't going to match that, or your ability levels are not going to match that, then that's not healthy as all. You can see that Swain is already level 11, and you can guarantee the guy going against him, Syndra, is probably level 10 or 11 as well. So that's going to be problematic for our team because, again, I'm fed, but not fed at the same time. I don't have the levels or items to beat people. So this fight right here is one of the few things that goes well for me personally in this game. I mean, we end up winning this game, but this is where it turns it around. So you stealth in, go in with your boy, you can engage. She didn't know where I was coming from because she thought the sharks were coming here, or Tryndamere, she was walling off, but theoretically I could have been coming from this side, and I get a hook into two-man stun right here, which is very good. The AoE is freaking huge, and then I get an execute, and unfortunately I don't get the reset because I ult a little early, but you can flash with this hook, which is really nice, and we end up winning that fight. I'm pretty ecstatic about that because that could have gone either way, but they kind of put themselves in a bad spot. So again, his engage is good. So I don't think that's much of a problem. So I want to kind of go over more of his positives in general while this gameplay footage is in the background. So as you can see, he has very strong single target CC. He can stun into like a kind of like a fling, like singed. That's very good. That is never a bad thing to have at all. He has stealth, which is exceptional, and many people do not like it. It's pretty broken, but it's limited stealth, but it's still stealth. So what you can do is check around the map, and you are slippery, a little more slippery than other characters. Stealth is a good positive note that I have to mention. He's got engage, as you can see. You can kind of walk up. Although Olaf was walking up there with me, you can hook people for engage. You can also kind of like stealth in E, Q. You saw me doing that a little bit earlier already in some of these clips and such. You share gold upon ultimate. Actually decently underrated. So when you ult and execute people, the last person gets gold. That's very good. That means you both get, you know, the bounty for that, which is like whatever, 400, 300, whatever kill gold is. I don't know if you actually get their bounty for a killing spree, but you share gold. So that's something that didn't need to be there, and they added it, which is probably another reason why they're like, oh, Pyke's a good champion and such. So as you can see, I get bursted by their Syndra. Again, you could argue I miss my abilities, but she just kind of just like walks up and like one-shots me if she ever sees me. So AoE stun is something that's noteworthy. You saw me get 2 people at Dragon. That's freaking huge. And he's got a strong level 2, 2-3 with all of his abilities. Once he gets his abilities, even if you only use them once, it's pretty strong. So that Pyke died in midair too. He's mobile on the map. So what I mean by mobile, so you could argue like, oh man, you're already being contradictory. No, I mean mobile on the map. Like I can get places very quickly with his W and his Moby boots. So you can get like anywhere on the map in a ward, which is huge for supports, or clear vision or something like that. Roam, make plays up top. Like I'm going up here trying to help out Mr. Tryndamere. I end up not getting up there in time for the execute, but as you can see, I can get up there and potentially make a play. His high HP regen also makes it so you can take trades in lane, or you can take trades in team fights late game and kind of like shut him off if you don't get killed. It's actually hard to not get killed on this guy, but you have a high HP regen, so you can take like a really bad trade and then come back strong. It's like almost you have like 3 water drakes coming at one time. So that's really good. His execute ignores shields. That's been a big complaint that people are like, oh man, shields are taking over the game. So your execute is basically like going guaranteed execution. You ignore resistances too. So say I think some people get stronger if they have like low amounts of HP or whatnot. I don't remember. It's based off your HP. Your armor doesn't matter is basically what I'm getting at. And then you have a decently good skirmish. So like you see this kind of skirmish like right here going on. You actually have decent like fighting capabilities when you're kind of like fighting in scrappy fights like this, where like everything goes and who knows, everybody's kind of all over the place. I'd say Pyke is at his best when fights are kind of loose and you can kind of isolate people. That doesn't happen very frequently, but when fights are kind of like all over the place, Pyke can actually showcase some of his shining moments. Now, there has to be some negatives if he's going to have that bad of a win rate. So I kind of want to go over some of them. I already kind of brushed up on them, but you know I'm going to actually pull them and pick them apart right here. His high CDs are brutal. That's the first one that needs to really be looked at. High CDs, cooldowns, they're all over 10 at level 1. So you're not getting down much lower, and his CDR items are, sure, he builds like lethality, which contains CDR, black cleaver, yada yada yada. But at the same time, you have such high cooldowns that it might not even matter. Like the games, Pyke can get shit on like 1 through 6, and when he needs to snowball the most because of these high CDs. So if you miss your skill shot, you're in a world of fucking hurt. Or you miss your E, which is like a 15-second cooldown, you're in a world of hurt. This also limits him as a jungler, and it limits him as a top laner, or it limits him as a mid laner, because you can't clear, you can't wave, like I already said, you can't wave clear at all. He offers 0 wave clear. And if you get shoved in as a mid and top laner, you are at a major disadvantage for several reasons. You can't help your jungler, you're losing pressure on the lane, you can't CS under tower. there's several reasons why. So Pyke is pretty much forced into a support because of these high CDs, as well as I'd say in practicality is using them as CS tools. Unlike other assassins, like Zed can use shurikens or Talon can use his W rake. But, you know, high CDs are gonna fucking be the death of you. And I don't think other assassins or other supports have as many brutal CDs as him, besides maybe Alistar. So that's not great. And maybe Braum. But Braum's Q is actually pretty short. Or maybe it's like 8 seconds. I don't remember. So I wanted to really ram that high CD thing as a problem for him. He's very snowball dependent. As you can see, most of the times, like I have, you know, multitudes of kills, and I'm still struggling to do anything in the game. Like this game, you could argue is still close, even though we win it, because there's so much. Like you have to snowball around the map, roam around the map, kill people. There's a lot of pressure on you to potentially leave your ADC alone too. So you are very snowbally. If you get shit on in lane, good fucking luck. You're just gonna get pushed in and die. And you're not going to be able to kill anybody because as an assassin, you have no items, and as a support, you have no money. And that doubles as Pyke because now he'll have even less as an assassin. So picture an assassin, a Cully getting dumpstered, right? And shit on. Well, she's pretty worthless if she can't kill anybody. But Pyke's even worse because now you have a support that has less of that, less money and less kill chance. So that makes it even more difficult to do what you need to do. This is actually a pretty nice fight here. I don't think I actually hit like all my abilities, but I missed my stun right there, for instance. And I could have executed the guy, but eventually I execute. I think to dodge the other execute. But we were both like up in the air as like who was gonna kill who? Who knows? As an assassin, Pyke is very item dependent, and many of those items are not support items. So in order to kill people, you need your item thresholds. You can't do much without items. Your ult and you're scaling on your passive scale off items, so you are very item dependent for survivability as well as damage. So it helps you survive and it helps you do the killing thing that basically is Pyke's whole thing, I guess, besides, you know, getting those stuns off. But they advertise Pyke as a guy who can kill people, and I'm starting to question if that's something that can actually happen. He's very telegraphed. Okay, so what I mean by that is I've already kind of explained it. If you W in, it's pretty much guaranteed you're gonna like try to like hook him in /E or whatever, and your Q is really fucking telegraphed. Like Thresh Strike has like a wind up, but he can kind of throw it in different directions, and it's faster than Pyke's projectile. Blitz can fucking like his is faster. Like these hooks are quicker, and like they don't have the same wind up animation as Pyke's does. He can hold his, sure. But Pyke's is really fucking telegraphed. His E is also like, you know, telegraphed. You can see where it's going. Like, sure, you can use movement abilities and flash and stuff, but he is very telegraphed for the most part. And his ult is like animation-wise, like it's pretty much like, okay, well there he is. Like, but if your main CC ability is so telegraphed, you can CC him out of it and all that jazz, I don't think you should be really getting hit by it by many of the dodges. So with how many dodges people have nowadays and dashes and such, if you're getting hit by Pyke Q, you're probably in for a world of hurt already. It's the same thing as Morgana Q. I don't think you should really be getting hit by those at a higher elo if you're in vision and you're just kind of throwing them out, because they're very slow projectiles. Both of them have that similarity between them. Another major issue that I think is like probably one of his biggest problems is his damage ability. So right here, this damage ability, right, when you shorten it, releasing it on 0.5, it does massive amounts of damage. Look, okay, like 275 is pretty good, plus your AD. But the problem is it's still a 16-second cooldown when you just stab people right in front of you. So your damage ability being on the same ability as your CC is pretty fucking awful in that case, because of your CD, the cooldown alone. This goes back to the high CD. But your damage ability, since it's so, like, being able to shorten your Q, you're probably never realistically ever going to be doing this in a fight. You're probably going to want to fling people as Pyke. So you're already going to be doing less damage, but, like, you have a high damage ability and it's not spammable. That'd be like the equivalent of like Syndra's stun doing the most damage on Syndra rather than her Q, or like Talent. Like, It's just bad. It's bad design. Like Zed's most damaging ability is like his Q or something like that. You don't want your damage ability to be the same as your CC ability with a high cooldown. That's just not how you want it to be. It doesn't let you clear. It doesn't let you push out in lanes or in the jungle. So as an assassin, if your damage ability is like that, you're pretty much in a really bad spot. It's hard for me to equate another assassin type champion who has their CDE. Okay, here. Echo's W does the most damage. Say it does damage AoE if they're in it, and you like burst it. But that thing's like a what 20-second cooldown. How awful would that feel if Echo you had to max that first, and like you still had a really high cooldown, but it CC'd people and yada yada yada. It becomes complicated. Basically, it boils down to this high cooldown is already a problem already, and we kind of already talked about that. But you cannot shank people with your knife or throw a hook, and like your damage is just either missed, high cooldown, or like you're not doing anything during fights. So it's pretty fucking awful to do that. He does good damage on his E again, but it's a really high cooldown. So having damage on CC is risky, but they don't want you spamming CC out very fast. Riot is smart. They're like, okay, we don't want Pyke, throwing hooks out left and right or stunning people like 15 times during a fight. But when your damage is all on those items rather than electrocute, because you're running like aftershock sometimes, or your autos, like good luck getting an auto off on all these people with dashes and stuff. More than 1 or 2 autos maybe. So it's just rough to get off your damage with how limiting all of these factors are. He has a highest skill cap. That's another disadvantage towards him. So already these stats might be skewed just because of how high of a skill cap he actually needs. I think he actually needs a lot of communication with your laner too if you're going to go in. His hook's hard to hit. It's telegraphs, like I said, and his stun is actually pretty hard to hit, and his ult is hard to hit because it's like an X, and you have like a really weird animation, and you might miss your execute range if they heal or something like that in the wrong time, and then it goes on CD, and then you're in a bad spot when you ult right next to him. So he's actually a really high skill cap champion. So doing that, it makes it question like, why would I play him over say like Blitzcrank, who is a lower skill cap. He builds support and is tanky even if he falls behind, and your hooks are coming out much easier. I mean, he's much more fun, but you could argue that's an argument, like if he's much more fun or not. High skill cap, I don't think is an argument. That hook is hard to hit. I mean, I guess you could argue like, oh man, I'm a master Pyke, but it's tough. I kind of wanted to bring that high skill cap point after I already ran that it's really telegraphed and such. So getting all of these abilities off, and if you have high CDs, if you miss them, you're punished much more than if you mess up on a low CD champion. So CD is like the word of this video. Too revealing with the sharks is another negative I want to put. So when you W in, they get a little bit of a shark radius around them, like oh man, like Pyke's coming at us. I kind of want to showcase what I mean by that. See, like there's like little sharks around this guy when you're like around him, and that starts from like massive amounts of way around him. It's like a Rengar ult, but like you don't know what Rengar is. You know Pyke's in the area as well, but you can see Pyke once he comes upon you. It's similar to Twitch in that regard, but Twitch doesn't have the difference between Twitch and Pyke is phenomenal. Their stealth is basically the same thing, except Pyke's gets a reveal location, and Twitch's does not. So you could argue that Twitch's is more bullshit, or that Pyke's is really underwhelming in comparison to Twitch's. Because Twitch, unless you're near him, you don't know where the fuck he is, and you don't know that there's a stealth character behind you or whatnot around you. That's kind of BS, and they kind of show you where Pyke's is. So you could argue that this is how stealth should work, but for the most part, I think it's very limiting to Pyke, and it doesn't. As a melee champion, he gets punished even more than Twitch does. So I would like either less of a like tell on where Pyke's stealthing near you, and to allow him to do his job. That would be a buff that would help him a lot. But that is a huge negative. That stealth, you are shown that you are stealth near somebody. Kha'Zix doesn't have that. Talon doesn't have that either. Shaco doesn't have that. Why is Pyke the only one that's punished by that? Eve doesn't have that. I could go over almost any stealth champion, and they do not get limiting factors on their stealth like Pyke does. So, kind of aggravating in that regard. So I don't know what the heck's going on with that. Last but not least, I mean, this is pretty clear as Assassins, but mid to late, he falls off fucking hard. He actually does pretty good early CC and stuff and engages, but he falls off like a fucking cliff. These are probably where these win rates are going. It's much harder to coordinate with solo queue and finish a game off strong. Once it gets kind of like random out in the pits of solo queue, you never know what the fuck's going to happen. So anybody can win. And that means Pyke's team is probably at a disadvantage because Pyke falls off like a fucking cliff. He builds lethality, that falls off. He builds... he doesn't assassinate people when he should be killing them. He falls off. So you can't coordinate when your stun or Q are going to be there, and it requires high coordination. He's going to fall off. So, like I said, he's already behind, and not being able to kill people and dying a lot is going to be pretty bad. So those are his negatives in a nutshell. I know I kind of wanted to rag on a little more on that, but yeah, those are his negatives. So if I had to change Pyke in any way, and we'll kind of go back to this, if I had to go back and change Pyke in any capacity at all to make him somewhat better, there's a couple things you can do. And I would not change his damage right now. I don't think you should change his damage. I think that's very dangerous. Riot was smart in this release. He sucks ass. In my opinion, he's probably the worst support in the game, which sucks. So why would I burn, time and effort to try to learn him if I'm going to lose LP, He hopefully will get better, because he's an interesting champion. I want him to be better, and it allows a unique play style, and he's really fun. That's obviously why I was playing him. It was fun, even though it was difficult to win the game. So how I would change Pyke. His animation on his ult, what the fuck is going on with that? Clean that up. I don't want to be holding up in the air like Darius and fucking showboating. And, I can make a collect call before I get down for my ult. And maybe make me untargetable. That might be too much with how much damage he potentially could be putting out with the execution. They were really afraid of that. I understand. Making a guy who is an assassin is just oppressive is really bad. You don't want assassins to be too good at assassinating. They're the hardest champion in the game to balance. Why? Because if they're too good at their job, no one has fucking fun playing them except for the champion playing them. The enemy team doesn't have fun, and ADCs don't get a chance to do anything. Mids don't get a chance to do anything. It's not fun versing a fed assassin. It's just not. So you have to balance it for counterplay. So a lot of the reasons why Pyke has all of these problems is they were probably afraid of people getting one shot in the bot lane and just giving up immediately. And that wouldn't be great. You want people playing your game. So assassins are probably the hardest to balance in that regard because, A, if they're not killing people, they're fucking worthless. If they're killing people too well, everybody becomes fucking worthless. No one wants that shit. So I would change his R animation. Maybe make him untargetable. I'm not sure on that. Change it first to make it quicker, come out quicker, whatever the fuck you want to do. Just don't make him hang up in the air like a dick. Second of all, I would probably change his Q cooldown. So if you shank it, I don't mind it being this long. It's shitty. I don't mind it being this long, but if I want to be able to wave clear it all in the jungle or mid or top, or just help my fucking ADC Targon break, or use this multiple times during a fight as another option, I'm never gonna fucking do that if it's the same cooldown as my massive Q hook. I think this should be refunded cooldown if you shorten it, if you shank people with it, or his melee stab. Maybe make the cooldown much shorter, and maybe if you hit somebody it goes down, like Thresh Hook. That's fine too, but his cooldown needs to be fucking touched in some capacity. I think it's fine if it's 16 seconds and it gets like a 2-second cooldown upon hitting people. I don't know, but something needs to be done about him using the melee form and it being 15 seconds still. That's stupid as shit. And if it's your main damage ability shouldn't be the highest cooldown you have in your kit besides your ultimate. That's dumb. Passive needs to be looked at. What the fuck is this? What has this to do with anything? Okay, cool, you get like a Tom Kench passive, but why is it on an assassin? Maybe make his passive, I don't fucking know, you can make it anything. When he's stealth and he comes out of stealth, he does more damage upon coming out of stealth. I don't know. I don't know why they chose his HP thing, but I would look at his passive before changing any of his other abilities. Because A, it's boring. B, I don't think it thematically fits him. He gets HP upon leveling up and like it converts to damage. Like what is that? I don't really know. I would like a bleed passive maybe. I don't really know. There's so many other assassin abilities you could put on him than like an HP passive. A boring HP passive. Come on, Riot, you can do better than that. I already kind of went over this. The sharks need to fucking go, or they need to be looked at, or like less of a tell. Like I can't assassinate people if I'm getting told that I'm right near them. Like 24. Like what the fuck is that? These sharks are stupid. And I already kind of explained to other stealth champions that they do not have these kind of tells unless you're near them. But Pyke gets like a fucking shark that showcases that you're near him, and everybody gets that shark. Like, oh man, Pyke's on us. I wonder what he's gonna do. I wonder if he's gonna like walk up and eat us. Like, come on. I think they need to go, or they need to be like less of a tell. There's so many things you can do that would probably change that. But sharks need to be looked at. And basically, I wouldn't change any numbers unless he's like really still struggling after these quality of life buffs. Maybe make this give gold. Maybe he gives gold upon killing people in general, assisting people. Maybe people would be more happy with that. This doesn't come into play many times, this assisting ally kill gold thing. Trust me, it really doesn't. I probably only had it like 4 times in like the 10 games I've played him. And that's pretty bad. So I think that might be just a normal passive or something like that. I don't know. But he definitely needs some looking at. And it's a very risky endeavor that Riot risk a support assassin. Never been done before. Or at least in this capacity, like a melee assassin. If I'm playing a support assassin, I'm playing Rengar. I'm playing Shaco. I'm sorry. Those guys, you might as well be playing those dudes. Because even behind, like, you could argue, make cases for them too. But Pyke is designed as a support, so I think it's even worse looking on him. But I just wanted to kind of give my Pyke thoughts and what you could do. That 30%, I want him to be better. But a 39% win ratio is pretty garbage. And I'm afraid that's going to go lower and lower until he gets some help. Some help. They might have to advertise him doing like different builds or something like that. And I don't know. But I think he needs some quality of life buffs before he actually gets like real buffs. And quick before people like really just give up on him early. The telegraphed Q is pretty bad. Maybe make that a little faster. There's so many things you could do with his animations that could clean him up. Other assassins just have cleaner animations. It's just their movement feels good. His W and E feel okay, but like his Q and R are just really awkward and clunky. Like I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I think his animations in comparison to other assassins is just really clunky. Which is not good for an assassin to have. Clunky assassins, not like flowing or something like that. It doesn't look clean when you're doing them. So I just wanted to run through my Pyke games and thoughts real quick. I know it was a lengthy video, and I know it was kind of like all over the place, but I wanted to give some evidence and stuff. But hopefully you guys enjoyed that kind of like rundown, and I'll see you next time, and maybe he'll get better. Who knows? But take care, guys, and have a nice day.